Today's scripture comes from the 22nd chapter of Matthew, verses 15 through 22. Then the Pharisees went out and laid plans to trap him in his words. They sent their disciples to him along with the Herodians. "Teacher," they said, "we know that you are a man of integrity and that you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. You aren't swayed by others because you pay no attention to who they are. Tell us then, what is your opinion? Is it right to pay the imperial tax to Caesar or not?" But Jesus, knowing their evil intent, said, "You hypocrites, why are you trying to trap me? Show me the coin used for paying the tax." They brought him a denarius, and he asked them, "Whose image is this, and whose inscription?" "Caesar's," they replied. Then he said to them, "Go give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's." When they heard this, they were amazed. So they left him and went away. The words of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God. Now, I don't know how far back any of you can remember stuff like church services, but 3 weeks ago, before I left, I was working on a sermon series called Things We Need and Things We Agree On. Now, things we need is fairly simple. You can prove what stuff you've got to have and what you don't have to have. Things we agree on is always a little more trepidation going on there because somebody's going to say, "No, I don't agree with that." So today is going to wrap up that sermon series, but I had to change the title of the sermon. Something we need and do not agree on. This is Stewardship Sunday. And half of you are going, "Oh, really? How is it I always come on money Sunday?" But money is one of those things that I suspect most of us, at least in the United States, would agree we need. Because, you know, you've got to buy stuff, you've got to buy food, you've got to have some place to live. So needing is important with money. On the other hand, we do not agree about money at all. Oh, now don't you sit there looking at me like we agree on it. I could develop a ring-tail argument right here, right now if I did this. I could say to you, so, when the government spends our tax money, how much do you think should go to disaster relief? How much do you think should go to our roads and bridges? And how much do you think should go to people to help with their medicine? And we would devolve into a ring-tail argument right here, right now, wouldn't we? You're all already thinking, you know, I don't think that person across the way from me thinks really differently than I do on this subject. We do not agree on money. We sure don't agree on taxes. Rick read a story. This isn't exactly new news, is it? 2,000 years at least, we have not been agreeing with this. The Pharisees and the Herodians had come to Jesus, and they came with the purpose of trapping him. And they had the perfect question to trap him. Now, first of all, you have to remember that Israel was an occupied country at the time. Rome had conquered Israel. It wasn't like Israel said, "Hey, Romans, come on in. We like your roads. We like your government system. We like being in a republic. We like being connected with all these other people. We like the fact that you have a shop." No. That was not what Israel had said to Rome. Rome had come in and conquered them. They were an occupied country. And there were people who were absolutely adamant that the Romans should not be there and nobody should be worshiping an emperor who called himself a god. Maybe you remember one of Jesus' disciples was called Simon the Zealot. Well, they were named because of the blade they carried. You know, in most Middle Eastern countries, you would wear very loose clothing, loose robes, because for one thing, it kept the sun off you, but on the other hand, it kept the air circulating, because it's very warm in those parts of the world. And so the zealots then would carry this long blade with them under their robes, and if they ever got close enough to a Roman soldier, they would take out that knife and stab. Now they would do so knowing that they were going to be martyrs. The Romans would arrest them and put them to death, probably on a cross. They were going to be martyrs, but they were that dedicated to the idea that Rome should not be governing Israel. Now, these two groups who come to test Jesus, they don't even agree with each other. Okay, the first group are the Pharisees. And the Pharisees are super religious lay people. They are not priests, they are not rabbis, they're not clergy. They are lay people who are doing their very best to keep every single law in the first 5 books of the Bible. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. They're doing their very best to keep every single one of those laws, and usually that meant that they were being separated from everybody else because everybody else had a problem, especially the Romans. And so the Pharisees would be that sort of person like my friends. I had friends one time in one of my appointments, and every year they would look at the federal budget. And they would take the federal budget and they would figure out what percentage of the federal budget went to the military. So then when they calculated what their taxes were, they would not pay that percentage. They would include a letter of explanation to the IRS. Now, while I was there, they weren't arrested for this. I don't think you're supposed to do that. But then they would take that percentage of money and they would put it into one of the organizations that works for peace in the world. Nonviolent protest, in other words. Well, that's who the Pharisees were. If the Pharisees could figure out a way, they were not going to pay tax because they did not want the Romans there. Now, the group that came with the Pharisees were the Herodians. And the Herodians were the cooperators. They had developed this attitude, well, Rome's here, we might as well make the best of it. And so that's who Herod was, after all. Herod was the puppet king, the king of the Jews. He was only half Jewish. He was the king of the Jews that the Romans had put in power because the Romans knew he was going to cooperate with them. So these two groups didn't even agree with each other. The only thing they agreed on was that Jesus was a problem and let's see if we can get rid of him. So they come with the perfect question. Should we pay taxes to the emperor or not? It's the perfect question because no matter how Jesus answers, he's going to offend one group or the other, and he's going to get in trouble with the Roman authorities or with the Jewish people. It's the perfect question because they didn't agree about money. We don't agree about money. Church people don't agree about money. 28 years in the ministry, I cannot tell you how many times I have had variations on this conversation. Well, Pastor, how much do you think I should give in the church? So usually I start out by saying, well, are you currently giving about 10% of your income? Now, 10% of your income is what the Bible calls a tithe. And the tithe is sort of the standard. That's what you're aiming for. That's the standard of giving towards God's work. Now, if the person I am talking with has this panicked look on their face when I say that, then I say, well, maybe you should start a little lower than that. Why don't you try giving 2% of your income and see what God does with it and what God does with you. And if you find that you're being blessed, then maybe you can grow 3% and 5% and 6% and work towards 10%. The follow-up question is always a variation on this. Is that pre-tax or after taxes? Or is that my net income or my gross income? How many of you have a hammer at home? Does anybody have a hammer at home? Okay, nearly everybody has that. How many of you can remember the exact circumstances that you got that hammer? A couple of them. How many of you have made your hammer? That's all right, I had one in the 8:45 service too. I forgot to ask you what he named it. How many of you, for the most part, use a car? Okay? How many of you have named your car? Yeah, a few more have done that. Okay, a hammer is a tool, right? A hammer is a tool. You use hammers to hit things. That's it. Well, unless you have one of those claw hammers that periodically pull out stuff too. But for the most part, a hammer is designed to hit things. That's it. Hammers are not good for screwing in screws. Hammers are not good for replacing light bulbs. My husband's favorite tool is the hammer. And I do remind him from time to time of that saying that goes around, if you use a hammer for everything, then eventually the whole world will look like a nail. That's all hammers are good for. Sometimes you're hammering something and the handle breaks, and you've got to get a new hammer. Most of us, if we haven't named our hammer, do not cry over the fact that we've got to have a new hammer. It's just a tool. Some of us think of our car simply as a tool. The car is a tool to get us from here to there. Now, I'm rather particular because I live in Texas. I want my car to have air conditioning. Also, I would like my car to have head clearance so that I can get in. That's really important. That's how Kevin and I shop for cars. We go to a car dealership and he opens the door and I get in. You know, I have 12 fused vertebra. I don't fit in every car seat there is. So I get in there and I'll say, nope, that doesn't work. And we go up to that, and you know, those poor salesmen, they have no idea what we're doing. And we go around and try all these cars until we finally find one that fits. Now, the next thing that has to happen is Kevin's got to sit. You've seen Kevin. You remember Kevin? Big Kevin. We've got to have a car where Kevin's hips fit. And that's how we choose a car. Is it going to go from here to here? Does it have air conditioning? And do we fit in the thing? We do not name our car, and when we have to trade it in, we don't weep over it either. We have not named our cars. In fact, periodically there is some confusion. Which car are you taking? Well, I don't know which one's out. That's how we deal with cars. Cars are a tool. So when we get around to talking about money in the church, one of the things we have to remember is that the church is a tool. And I don't care if you're talking about the church building or if you're talking about us as the body of Christ. The church is simply a tool. This church building has a roof for one purpose, so that you and I can worship and serve when it's raining. We have air conditioning here only as a tool, so that we can worship in comfort, or more or less comfort, during the summer. The only reason you have a pew is so you can sit and be comfortable while I'm preaching. If we were back in Jesus' day, you would be standing and I'd be sitting. But somewhere along the line, we swapped that, and now we have pews. They are only a tool. They are only a tool so that the church, the body of Christ, can worship and be sent out into the world to serve. And that means that you and I, as the body of Christ, are only tools. We are the tool of God that God has sent into the world to redeem the world through Jesus Christ. That is the whole mission of the church. And you and I are only tools in that plan. You and I are the major tool in God's tool belt. So when we start talking about money in the church, are we going to disagree? You bet we are. But let me suggest at least one thing that maybe we ought to agree on, and that is that money's a tool. Money's a tool. When the Herodians and the Pharisees were trying to trap Jesus, they said, should we pay taxes or not? And Jesus, being the smart guy that he is, said, well, show me the coin. Now you see, the coin that they held up, called a denarius, had the face of Caesar on it. Because Caesar understood that you use money as a tool. He was using money as a propaganda tool to remind everybody in the Roman Empire that the only money that was good was the money with his image on it. Anybody else's image on it, it's not good money. Won't work. Not a good tool. when you and I begin to talk about being the tools of God, that's because God's image is on your face, and on your face, and on your face, and your face, and all. We are the ones who are made in the image of God. We are the ones who belong to God. Now, I know our money says, in God we trust, but there's no image of God on that. It is a tool, and that's it. Okay, those ushers and finance committee members who are going to help pass out the cards, now's the time. Please go fly into the back and get the green cards and split up and pass them out to everybody. This is Stewardship Sunday, and this is an estimate of giving card. Estimate. Everybody say that after me. Estimate. It is not a written contract. This is not, we're not going to ask you to sign this. And, by the way, I have counted this morning at least 5 visitors. Visitors, we are delighted that you're here with us this morning. This is family business. You don't have to do this. Okay? When you come up for communion, you just bring it blank and leave it on the rail, and we're cool. But this is family business because this is a tool. This is a tool that says, okay, in 2019, I think. You don't know. I think this is going to be my income, so therefore, this is what I plan to give. If you change your mind, you go ahead and hand them out, guys. Go ahead. There you go. If you change your mind, you're going to call the church office and say, Rita, they raised my salary. I want to give a little more. And Rita will be deliriously happy to hear that. Or if you lose your job, you're going to call and say, Rita, I'm going to have to change my number. And Rita will change it. And if you find out that you're being transferred, then you're going to call the church and say, Rita, we're moving. I'm going to need to estimate my giving somewhere else. And Rita will say, we will miss you. This is an estimate. But it is a tool. The only thing this is good for, the only thing this is good for, is as a tool, number one, for the finance committee. Because what the finance committee is going to do, where they're going to give them all the read and say, okay, we just want the total. Go tell us. And I don't know what you put on these cards. Finance committee doesn't know what you put on these cards. Rita knows what you put on these cards. That's it. So she's going to total them, and then she's going to say, okay, finance committee, here's how much has been estimated. And that then gives the finance committee a chance to work on their tool, which is called a budget. But it might as well be called a guess. Because we don't know how much electricity is going to cost next year. We don't know how hot next summer is going to be. So the budget is a guess, is a tool to try and help us be ready to spend the money that we think is going to come in. That's all this is. This is a tool. That's all our money is a tool. If you've never seen the air conditioning bill around here in June, July, or August, it's a whopper. But the air conditioning is only a tool so that we can worship in comfort during the summer, so that we can welcome visitors in comfort during the summer, so that we can teach the children, so that all the ministries that we do can go on, even during a Texas summer. Money, friends, is a tool. Now, the other thing that this tool does is it's a reminder to us. It's a reminder to us that money doesn't belong to us any more than we belong to ourselves. The money has an image of somebody else, something else. You and I use it as a tool. But you and I are created in the very image of God, and we belong to God. We are God's. We are God's primary tool. And we will use all the tools that we have, in order to make sure that the world is redeemed, that God's kingdom comes on earth as it is in heaven through Jesus Christ. And that's it. There are some lovely souls in our church who try desperately to keep hymns in the pews. They don't want to succeed. So you may have to go digging in a purse I think I'm going to have to go to my choir folder to find a pencil. But it's time to fill out one of these. We're going to take a few minutes, and then we'll move into our communion time. And at communion time, when you come forward for communion, you're welcome to bring this card. You know, if you didn't have this discussion before you got to church today, and you and your spouse are looking at each other panicking at the moment, take it home with you. If you're ready to fill it out, then fill it out. And when you come up here, you leave it on the communion rail face down. Because only Reed is going to see it. Because it's just a tool. Even as you and I, as the body of Christ, are tools that God is using for the redemption of the world through Jesus Christ. So take a couple of minutes, let's fill this out, and then we'll move to our communion prayer.